Hello, everyone. This is Belial, your humble proprietor, and welcome to the Tea House. Tonight, we're going to discuss the art of the anti-transaction. I'm going to start off and say the other day, I spent $113 on 3 cigars. To a hustle culture influencer, that's a failure of logic. Later that night, I gave one of those cigars, a premium stick I just paid for with my own labor, to a Lyft driver I'll never see again. His name was Bernardo. He was a very lovely gentleman, older man from the Dominican Republic. I happen to very much enjoy Dominican tobacco, and I had that with me. And as he's telling me, I haven't smoked a cigar in years, I was like, do you want one? Then he kind of keeps talking, and then I said, well, do you want one? And he says, are you sure? And I said, yeah, go ahead. Let's give him it right there. He's an old man. He misses his country. And why not? He's been working hard that day. Why not? And I'm not telling you this to audit my own morality. I'm telling you because in the moment, I felt a flicker of something that the modern world is trying to kill. And that thing is agency. This agency I'm talking about, it's an idea that's under siege. It's something the modern world wants to kill. The modern world, it wants you to be hard-hearted. It wants you to be a machine that only calculates, something that only produces wealth for shareholders. You live in a cubicle and you don't make any self-agency of yourself. You don't engage with your fellow man on a personal level. If you're a consumer, you only care about what you get. Your next thing is like, what am I getting out of this? What's for me? What's for me? Me. And if you're a producer, and what I mean by that is you're part of like this kind of like bourgeois kind of Epstein class, you only care about what you make. And that's the same thing. It's the same trap. We either become consumers, and that's the majority of society, where it's me, or you become a quote-unquote producer. And I don't even really like to say that word specifically, but somebody who essentially creates wealth out of nothing, and you come back to the same trap. Me. Like, what's with what do I want? What am I getting out of this interaction? And that's the trap people find themselves in. This is where we talk about a revolt against the modern world. True rebellion isn't just a political stance. It's a refusal to let the shareholder logic dictate your soul. When you treat a stranger with radical kindness, you're essentially saying, I am not a cog. I am not a resource. I am a human being. And that's where our generation, Gen Z, or a lot of young people are finding themselves. We're hitting that wall of authenticity where we say like, I do not want to be a cog. I am more than profit making for shareholders. I am a man. And that's where we find ourselves a lot these days. And I've mentioned this before in some regard where we talk about things like in my video where I talked about the Gen Z, the radical generation or the extremist generation. And we're essentially searching for this authenticity of the soul that we seem to not be able to find in what the last, I would say like 60 to 80 years of previous people have found it in or have lacked to find it in. We're essentially inheriting a world from the baby boomers, and I'm not trying to disparage them entirely, but it's this idea that if you make money for shareholders, if you work a corporate job, if you work in the same field for years, you're going to be rewarded for that. But that no longer exists. There's no career you can get in America. There's not a lot of careers you can get where you're going to be able to have that kind of stability. You're going to have that kind of growth. You're going to have that kind of loyalty. And even then, the loyalty itself that these people felt like they had from their employers was non-existent. It was a complete one-way street. Now, the thing is, we're kind of returning in a sense in America in a Gen Z's kind of mindset. Some people actually have referred to us as kind of like the new Victorians. And what I kind of mean by that is not necessarily a return to just being a Luddite and not engaging with society where it is at. What I mean by that is like avoiding technology and avoiding the changes that come with society, but it's a re-examining of our values and a returning to something that worked, which is that kind of traditionalism, or at least a return to authenticity, I would say. Essentially, Gen Z, were tired of hearing the same things over and over again and then seeing that it doesn't work. That's why we want, in a way, to return to that authenticity. And I keep using that word, but it's what we're looking for. We're looking for something that is not going to be the quote current thing. And that's what leads a lot of young men these days to traditionalism, or what some of them would view as traditionalism, which really wouldn't be. This kind of like red pill kind of culture, or this quote toxic masculinity kind of culture. It stems from a search for the authentic, for what it means to be metaphysically a human being, instead of something just designed to create money for people who really don't give a damn about you. We keep being told, like I'm getting to, that in the current year, in the big 26, you either have to be a drone for a corporation or a predator, in the sense that you essentially take from your fellow man, like I got mine, so piss off kind of way. Excuse my language, I apologize. But really, that's like it's not the way to do it. The way forward for people who are seeking that authenticity, for the younger generation, is the sovereign man. It's that quiet dignity that exists when you take yourself seriously and you understand that you are an entire metaphysical being, that you're not meant to be some kind of caricature of a human. And there's a few things that I've noticed that I think really kind of put that point home, that I try to practice in my life. Really, one of the things is like just practicing radical charity. It's like, hey, why not help a person out? Why not give them a cigar? Why not give money to a soup kitchen? Why not talk to the homeless people in your area like they're people? If a guy comes up to you, why not just be like, hey, want to have breakfast? Why don't we go, let's get some food, and let's talk a bit. Oh, you're from this place? Like, what brings you to this city? Just like that radical charity, that kindness that we find when we treat each other like human beings. There's also that reclamation of the mundane that exists. A lot of times it's just being able to sit and be with yourself. And a lot of that comes down to whether that's in a spiritual sense. Like, I like to go to my masjid. I like to sit down. I like to read Quran. I like to sit there and I like to do dhikr and just relax in a way, be alone with my God. But there's other ways to do that too, in your third spaces, your local coffee shop, being able to go do things too. Go to the museum, look at some art, walk around a park, reclaim the mundane. It doesn't always have to be hustle culture. It doesn't always have to be, oh, look at the club I'm at. Look at this car I have. Why not go to the play? Why not go to the opera house? Why not engage in an intellectual activity that proves that you're a sovereign individual? I think that in reality, the thing that we really need to do is to reclaim our souls against a modern world that seeks to bring us down to the function of base animal. In Finding Nemo, they said, fish wasn't meant to live in a box, kid. It does stuff to you. I don't know. That's really kind of the way I'm looking about things right now. It seems that people just live in that box, and we don't want to live outside of it. We're almost afraid of that. And then sometimes this search for authenticity that people are looking for really brings them to some dark places. It's kind of that longing and searching for meaning that we've lost after the social revolutions of the 70s and 60s. And really, I think that's a good thing for young men and young women, and for everybody, would be just a return to the quiet dignity of true traditionalism. That sort of like gentleman's agreement for society. Taking yourself seriously and reclaiming the mundane, reclaiming the spiritual. Being a man, being a mensch. And there's a lot of ways to do that. But really, I think what we need is a return to dignity and the respect of the dignity of all human beings. That's inherent and given by the Creator. Anyways, I appreciate you hearing me ramble. This has been Belial, your humble proprietor. Thanks for sitting with me in the tea house. I'm going to try to be uploading a bit more often lately. Ramadan's over. It was a great one. And it's always sad to see it go. And on that last part, it's about, to my Muslim viewers, it's about how you take those lessons of Ramadan into the rest of the year. The true exam of Ramadan ends after Ramadan. And how you keep that God consciousness going, the taqwa. But either way, thanks for sitting with me today, and I'll check you all next time in the tea house.